Hello, welcome back to BLENDERSUSHI Live Noding. In this video, I'm going to explore more of dynamic paint using Spreadshock and animation nodes. Um, Let me quickly save this DP art. I found that there are plenty of untapped possibilities you can create using dynamic paint. Like in this case, really, I'm just going to perhaps make like a gradient kind of art. I'll show you real quick. If you are actually doing this manually, let's say this is the canvas. I'll quickly make this into a canvas, and this guy is gonna be the brush. And let's use mesh volume and proximity. Perhaps actually just mesh volume. Imagine this is the canvas, and I'll turn this guy into a wire. And now I'll start to do something with this. I'll increase the dynamic paint cache into 1000 and the frame number to 1000, so we can paint over, we can cache within that time frame. So if I play back, obviously it's going to be doing the painting. What if we are scaling it down and then change its color and scale it down and change color, scale it down and change color, and so on? Have you ever thought of doing something like this, but kind of in a more procedural kind of way? So let's try doing that today. What interesting here is kind of doing the concept of interpolation as well. If we have like the gradations, like a perfect smoothness, we're gonna get a different result than actually doing it with the hard edges like this. And the concept of having hard edges or smooth blending kind of effects and combining the two is actually the secret to create a kind of more interesting abstract art, I guess. Yeah, let's get started. So the canvas is working, so our brush is also working, so all we need to do is controlling the scaling using I guess in this case I will use animation nodes. So switch to animation nodes. This should be pretty basic. I didn't try this beforehand. So this guy should be like that, and then select this guy, the brush. The scaling we're gonna control, and let's see, animate vector. So we're gonna animate the scaling. Perhaps it start pretty big and then it should get smaller and smaller. And we also changing the color of this guy, which is the brush color. Copy data path, and then like usual, add object attribute output, paste here, plug in there. Value has wrong type, of course. We need to have a combine color thing and separate color, and then vector in, combine the vector, plug that in. Now we have color. Of course we have control over all this just by changing the value now. Okay, seems like we have everything we need. Let's try using perhaps the saturation, or saturation is interesting. How about the, let's play with the value. So the value should change over time. Let's try with the hue first. Let's see if this is actually working. So what's changing should be the hue from hue. The hue should change over time. So we can try using frame first. Plug into the hue and then check the result. Supposedly this guy is changing in scale. We need to plug in the frame into the time. So now where's our brush? Okay, let's have a look. So that thing is changing in size, but the value is not changing. Maybe the value is too strong at the moment. Let's have like a animate float just to have more control over this. So start maybe at 0 and at 10. Durations 20 frame. Now let's have a look. Still not doing what I think it should be doing. Let's check whether this is doing. I have a feeling that maybe. Oh, there you go. Probably I didn't plug in the result. I was plugging the time instead of the result. We seem to have like a kind of gradations from blue to purple. The scaling maybe can be a little bit larger to cover all the canvas. Currently we are just using the square canvas, but you can use any kind of canvas, even in a kind of random shape. So that's the result you get just by scaling the brush and then changing the color of the brush. So we have this one modern artworks like that. Save this real quick, save new version. If we tweak the hue a little bit, maybe we get different color, obviously. For the color, you can really do anything right here. You can use wiggle even. In fact, if you're just using add, you can really control the color while it's doing it. You see? And what would be nice is to kind of repeat the process so you don't need to kind of scrub it back and forth. Yeah, let's do that. Let's use repeat time. Let this guy loop over 20 frame. So that's one loop. Seems to stop working. Okay, I need to plug this guy there as well. So it's looping in scale. And now we can change the value, I believe. Let me check the durations, time and end, 0 to 10. Perhaps I did something wrong, but we're starting to see there's the gradations and there's also like a solid kind of color changing there. Kind of wondering what's the value is. Let's debug the value real quick. Animate float, start end. Maybe this doesn't need the animate float. It's really just a value changing. But we control the speed using the multiplications. We're still getting this pink and blue. Wonder why. So saturations seems to have effects. Hue saturation value. I have a feeling that this guy is converting it into RGB value. Something not quite right here. Hue saturation value. Let me check the brush. HSV, let me try changing that to HSV. Still doing seems to start doing something now. Let me change the multiplier. 0.1 or 0.2 or 0.3. Somehow the brush is only giving us the color between purple and pink. So I wonder why. Let me debug this. 0.4, 0.6. It's spitting out RGB right there. Maybe this should be RGB and that should be like that. Ah, I am right. So there's some kind of conversion, misconversion here between HSV and RGB. So this is obviously what I was expecting. So we have this kind of a more psychedelic kind of color. File, save as 0.3. If you want it in full speed, you can do that. See, you don't get that easily if you're not using maybe dynamic paint or procedural kind of workflow. You can't normally see this. And let me change the color. For example, this is more saturations. Just now it's more kind of more like pale color. We can also change the value. If you want to keep it like a single color, just keep the hue the same color and then just change the value. The value actually is growing up. So let's get back to our animate float right here. Plug the time there, start and end, and plug this result into the add, and let's have a look. There you go. We have kind of smooth kind of gradations. Let me get rid of the grid floor. I remember I have this kind of task when I was in the junior high school. The art teacher asked every student to kind of play with the paint, real paint, and to make these kind of gradations. And now we are doing it using computer, and we are using Blender as well, so it is pretty cool. You can actually start experimenting with this durations. As I increasing duration, you can see the effects. Okay, it seems like depending on the loop and stuff, it's 20 there. Maybe make the loops faster. No, doesn't work. Perhaps I can shift the hue as well. It's getting brighter and brighter as it gets closer to the center. If I am randomizing the hue, we get, you know, very random color. Okay, this is fine and dandy. What else can we do with this? There are actually plenty, even though we only controlling, currently we are only controlling the scale. What if we're controlling the rotation as well? So try that. Z, play with the Z. See, I'm rotating the scale. We get that kind of effects. Let's try that real quick. Vector input. Actually, combine vector is more correct. This is for rotations, but rotation is expecting Euler, so that's wrong. Combine Euler is what we need. And it's up to you. You want to use Euler or degree. Which one you think you're more comfortable with? Let's use degree and plug in the frame number into the Z. Now we have that happening. It's only rotating a little bit though, so you might want to remap it. Map range 0 to 1, 0 to 360. Maybe 0 to 20. See, you're getting that kind of effects. If you want to post it, don't press escape. Escape is gonna reset it to frame 0 or frame 1. Just actually use Alt A and then you stop it where you like it. You can actually save this. You can render this out in a higher quality. Currently, it's like limited to this pixel resolution. Maybe I can subdivide it one more time. It's gonna be slower, but it's okay. There you go, quite neat. Of course, you can change the brush shape as well. It's totally up to you. And then even better, you can at this point experiment with all kind of things that dynamic brush is offering, such as maybe you can spread the color, so you have that kind of smoother result. You can drip or shrink. Drip is actually interesting. Once we use drip and then we use a force field and maybe turbulence. Let's say with turbulence, make it really high. You can see the paints kind of spreading out in the turbulence kind of way. This is really interesting. It gives it more natural look. If we perhaps change the durations and things like that, we're gonna get a more interesting result. Float. Let's try float input. Plug this there. This should be the same number, 50. So now the whole thing is gonna take 50 frames to create. Give it more time to kind of turbulence itself. Apparently I forgot to change this. Wait for 50 frames and we have this. It's almost like a kind of liquid kind of look. Let's bring back our maybe our hue changing thing, and then start from beginning. It's red, orange, and it's changing color. Yellow is getting brighter and brighter as well. Maybe I cut the value here, so the value remains the same now. It's almost like dye ink kind of processing. Maybe not as different as a kind of batik, you know, batik. It's kind of a, this is more like a Indonesian style of dyeing pattern. There's also the Japanese one. You can of course randomize the shape of the brush if you like. Let me see what else I haven't played around with. Location, I just keep it at 0, 0, 0. I'm not changing locations. Let me see. What else? The canvas, we can actually make it dry faster, and then make it. We can make it dissolve as well. Not gonna do that. Shrink and let's see with the force here. Turbulence, noise, flow. The flow is actually interesting. It's gonna give maybe like a swirly type kind of look. You see, you start to get the swirling to happen. Let me turn off the loop now. Ping pong the loop. I'll turn off the loop actually. So plug in the time there, plug in the time there, and time there. Smaller and smaller, and then it's not gonna loop. The brush gonna stay. It's gonna become really small at the center, and it stops. And supposedly the turbulence should take over. What's interesting about dynamic paint is that you can also, you know, easily make multiple canvas, and the brush will actually kind of travel around the canvas. This is really unusual, and I recommend you to try this as well. If the canvas size is in different shapes, and then they're in different positions, you have a single brush or multiple brush, you're starting to get this kind of multiple creations of artwork at the same time. So currently I think must be the brush becoming dry really fast, but you can see the effects now. Apparently by moving it, I'm resetting the canvas, which is pretty weird. Over. Changing the noise also show you the effects. 250, really high noise, randomize the seed. You can see it's happening here. Size, smaller size, give it a smaller kind of swirl. And the flow, let's see, small value, high value. Let's try middle value, global. Yeah. Let's do it one more time. Maybe don't make the canvas, don't make the brush dry too far. Make this like 50, make this a little bit higher, and this one even higher. So let's try this, and try this in real speed. So Alt A, and then let's see it's working. I like how what's the turbulence doing over there. It's really neat. even there, how the colors blending with the turbulence and everything. Yeah, I quite like this result. If you actually make this really high res, the final result might be something that's quite surprising, interesting. At the moment, it's really the color is quite random, etc. But remember, you can also use texture of your own, and you can kind of project it and let the pixel kind of blending, and then let the turbulence take over, and so on and so on. Yeah, so yeah, that's just a quick little trick you can do with dynamic paint, and using animation nodes procedurally on top of that. Normally, if you want to do this by hand, or maybe you can of course animate the cube, and then, but no, using procedural means that you can try a lot of ideas really quickly, hundred of ideas. Just let the computer help you randomize things, and yeah, you might come out with something that's original. Okay, so I guess that's all for this live noding episode. I'll leave comments and feedbacks down below. Maybe you can give me more ideas as well. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you